All right, what's up, everybody? Brent here from We Miss the Exit. I'm here to talk a little bit about kind of what's been going on in the NBA. And I can't figure this out. There it is. There it is. Okay. So there have been a lot of trades going on. We're going to talk about them. I'm sick again, so I'm on antibiotics and all that stuff. That's why I don't want to show my face. It's not as beautiful as it normally is. So let's get down to the first few trades and talk about the fantasy implications. We'll start off with Mason Plumlee going to the Clippers and Reggie Jackson going to the Charlotte Hornets. Here's what we're here to talk about. Their impact now. Mason Plumlee, his value is going to go down with this. He's behind Zubac. The only good thing that might come from this is, when they decide to rest all their players, he might make a comeback. This is terrible for Evan and myself because we have Plumlee as our main center, and he's been killing it, and now we probably have to drop him. So this is bad for us. Reggie Jackson. So the website I got this from slates him as the, fourth string point guard. I don't know if that's going to be the case. I don't know if he's going to get bought out or what. Another website I use, one of the more mainstream ones, had him at shooting guard. The reason why I don't use that mainstream one is they didn't even have all the trades done. So this website at least had all the trades done, even if I disagree with their depth chart. So I think Mason Plumlee is going to take a hit. Reggie Jackson's going to take a bit of a hit, but Reggie Jackson wasn't doing a whole lot anyway. Next trade, Devontae Graham to the Spurs, and Josh Richardson goes to the Pelicans. Now, again, there's a little bit of a not controversy, but toss up between, where is Graham going to be? One site has him as the number 2 point guard. Another one has it as the starting shooting guard. I think regardless, the Spurs might use him a little bit. I think they're trying to rebuild, so I doubt he's going to get a whole lot of fantasy. He might be a guy you might want to put a pin into because with a lot of injuries, he might get some play time. I doubt it, but he might. Josh Richardson, he wasn't doing a whole lot before him. I don't see him doing a whole, maybe not fantasy-wise. He'll probably help the team out wins-wise, but I don't think he's going to get a whole lot of playing time for fantasy. Next trade, the Lakers got Bamba, and the Orlando Magic got Beverly. So, Bamba wasn't really doing much. I remember thinking, he might have a good breakout year because he did all right last year towards the end with Orlando. I don't think he's going to do much here. He's taking the place of Thomas Bryant, who the Lakers already traded. He might be okay. I would keep a pin on him, just to see with injuries when, Anthony Davis decided to rest. I would look to get Mo Bamba as like a flyer kind of thing. Beverly, he's probably going to get bought out. No reason for the Orlando Magic to have him. So they'll probably get rid of him. Next trade, John Wall goes back to Houston with Danny Green as well. They're both probably going to get bought out. They're probably going to look to go to contenders. Rockets aren't looking to contend, so don't plan on them being there. Luke Kennard goes to Memphis. I did not know he was still playing. He's going to be number 2. He might be a flyer guy if Memphis decides to rest a couple of their guys, so he might be worth it. Same goes for Eric Gordon going back to the Clippers. He's not going to do a whole lot. He wasn't doing much before. He'd give you some points, maybe some threes. That was really it. I don't think he's going to get a whole lot of playing time on the Clippers. He'll come off the bench, but Paul George and Kawhi Leonard never play. So look for games where they look to sit out, and then I would probably go and grab Eric Gordon on a flyer for like a game or two, something like that. So Eric Gordon might be worth keeping a pin in. Same with Luke Kennard. Next trade, not much goes on here, And I do want to talk about a little bit of something with Justin Holiday, but Garrison Matthews and Bruno, they're bottom of the barrel. They're not going to be doing much. They're not going to move the needle for those guys, for the Hawks. If I look at the Rockets, they have Justin Holiday at the starting shooting guard. I disagree with that. I don't think that's going to be the case. He'll likely get moved somewhere else or towards the bottom, so don't look for him to make much of an impact. I think Houston is looking to rebuild, especially with all the draft picks they're going to be getting and how good they're going to be for the Nets. So I would look to not hold on to Justin Holiday. Mel, what do you want? My dog's upset about that trade too. Now, there is Baisley. I have these backwards. Oh, well. So anyway, Phoenix gets Baisley. He's decent. I think that he's going to be, I remember picking him up a couple times last year just because I needed a couple rebounds. He might be worth keeping an eye on some days where that team decides to sit a couple players because now that they're older with another trade that just happened, I would look for him on flyer days. Now, if we look at Dario Saric, he had a stretch of a couple good games, but he's not going to be worth a whole lot in Oklahoma City. They're looking to well, they weren't really looking so much to rebuild now, but I don't see them using him a whole lot now moving forward. It all depends on injuries. He might be worth it for injury reason wise, but I had him for a few games this year, and he's hit a bit of a wall. Now we're starting to get to a little bit of, we're getting to like the last bit of not so significant trades. Jalen McDaniels went to Philly. I don't get why Charlotte got rid of him. I like him. He was doing pretty well over there, just helping out the team. I don't see him getting a whole lot of playing time for Philly. He's not going to be a whole lot worth when it comes to fantasy. He might be fine, but I don't see him doing a whole lot. Portland got Thibault, and he's not a fantasy guy. He's probably one of the best, or was before his injury, probably the best perimeter defender out there, which would have been great. You want somebody like that, but he's not going to help you out fantasy-wise. And there's a guy that Brian and I have tried like 6 times to pronounce his name, and we just can't. So I'm going to leave that picture of him up there because we don't know what we're doing. I don't see much impact from any of these guys. Maybe McDaniels at some point because Philly could always use a little bit of extra rotation there. It all depends. Our next trade. All right, let's look at Pacers here. Ibaka finally got his trade. As you can see, he's towards the bottom of their depth chart. I don't see why that helps him. Mainly because he's looking to be able to play because he thinks he still has some left in the tank, which he probably does. But he's not going to be contributing a whole lot fantasy-wise, so don't worry about him. Nor I don't see him doing much either. Don't worry about those guys. Jay Crowder, his fantasy years have pretty much passed. I mean, on days when they want to rest some of their main starters and everything, he might be worth for rebounds. You know, he'll put up the occasional 15, 20-point game, and that should be good. And I just threw that picture of Jerome Powell in there because look at Brooklyn. Now they're on damage control, just trying to acquire as many picks as they can after getting rid of all theirs. Houston Rockets are going to feast on all the picks that they acquired from the Nets with their it was a James Harden trade from a little while ago. Typical Brooklyn Nets, but I can't say much being a Knicks fan. All right, this is one of our last not huge trades of the day. So this one bothers me a little bit because a lot of sites have some of these guys like mixed up on where they're going to be and what position they're at in the depth chart. I see Mike Muscala not being a huge fantasy player in Boston, but he'll be there when like Horford needs a break or they go down with injuries because Robert Williams was hurt for a while too. So I would look for him on days where they're going to be resting some players or if they're going to be injuries. He might be worth it just for rebounds really. And maybe a couple defensive stats, but that's it. Justin Jackson, I forgot he's still in the league. They've been trying to get him to, solidify a real role for like years now, over 5-6 years now. So I don't think he's really worth anything, not at this point in the NBA for fantasy. All right, now we have Thomas Bryant, who goes to Denver. I think he might be worth it for fantasy, not a pickup, not a long-term hold. Because Jokic is going to eat up a lot of minutes. Now, when Jokic needs to rest, you're going to see Thomas Bryant kind of do similarly that he did in the Lakers. He's going to get very few minutes, but he'll produce in those few minutes. I would look for that if Jokic goes down with an injury or if he needs a rest day. Thomas Bryant will put up decent stats. The defense is still atrocious. This helps Thomas Bryant. He's never played defense in his life. So you have a chance of getting something with him with this trade if a couple of those big guys go down. If we're looking at the Lakers, this trade doesn't help them at all. Devon Reed, he's in the NBA. That's all I can say. Now we get into our more fun trades here. So let's look at this. Saddiq Bey goes to Atlanta. I don't fully get this trade for them, mainly because, well, first of all, the site that I was using has him at power forward, which is fine. He can play power forward, but John Collins wasn't traded. They've been looking to trade him, but they haven't. So I don't see Saddiq Bey getting as much pull that he did in Detroit. So if I had him, I'd probably drop him. He might be worth a flyer throughout the year. If you just know, somebody's going to be sitting, somebody's going to be resting, somebody's going to be injured, he might be worth it. But for now, I wouldn't worry about him. Golden State got Gary Payton back. He'll be fine. Like when Steph Curry goes, again, I'm going to sound like a broken record. When he goes down for like injuries, when he goes down for resting and stuff, Gary Payton is worth a flyer. He's not a long-term guy. He wouldn't even crack, top 12, top 13 for fantasy drafting. I wouldn't get him, but he'll be worth it if you need a couple like all-around stats just from somebody, and Steph Curry's going to be out. Imagine if Curry's out, Poole's out, and Klay Thompson are out. They're three big guys or the three main guys at the guards in the backcourt, I would look to get Gary Payton. Detroit getting Wiseman. Now, that one bugs me a little bit because my initial reaction would say, go get him. He is going to feast in Detroit. There's nobody really taking over. Isaiah Stewart is there at power. They have him at power forward. He's really more of a center kind of guy. And I want to say go get Wiseman, but he just doesn't produce. So I want to say go get him, but on the same hand, I'm like, I'm hesitant to go get him myself. We need a center, Evan and I. But I don't think I'm going to go get him. So, that's your discretion. You might want to feel this out a little bit, see how it goes. And then let's look at Portland getting Kevin Knox. Don't even want to talk about him. All right, now to my Knicks. The Knicks got Josh Hart. The thing with Josh Hart, he'll probably go to starting small forward, and that'd be fine. He's going to crack the rotation pretty much right away, and he does help it from a win standpoint. The problem is Josh Hart is really a good rebounder for a shooting guard. He's not really a small forward. He's more of a shooting guard. The problem is the Knicks are the third best rebounding team, so they don't need rebounds. So that's why he's not a good shooter either, or not a great one anyway. He's fine. He's like, I think 34, 33, 34%, 35% maybe. So he's not really worth it for shooting wise, which is what the Knicks need. He's a rebounder. So I don't see the point. He might still do okay. Like he might be worth it if you don't have him in your league, has him available. He might give you 12 points, 7 boards, maybe 2 or 3 assists, one of those kind of things. But I wouldn't look for him to contribute a whole lot just yet. Because there are a lot of guards on the Knicks in that rotation, but nobody has a whole lot of playing time other than Brunson and RJ. But then they have Grimes who gets put in there. They have Quickly that gets put in there every now and then. They had Fournier sometimes, and then Deuce. So it all depends what happens. Portland, they got the guy that we can't pronounce. Archie-Econo's not going to do anything. Now Cam Reddish is their slated number 2 shooting guard. I see him playing more small forward for them, which I think helps them defensively. I don't think Cam Reddish is going to do well fantasy-wise just because he's never really been a great fantasy guy. He's so inconsistent. There's no point in trying to get him for fantasy. But I could be wrong. Simons might not produce, and then they're going to want to, maybe move Cam Reddish into there at some point. But I don't look at Cam Reddish making a big impact fantasy-wise. All right. Now to the big trades that happened. According to my brother, it happened 20 minutes ago. I believe it happened late last night. And if you're on the Western Coast time, then it was probably, like 10 or 11 o'clock when it went down. So Kevin Durant and TJ Warren go to Phoenix. I know it was all about TJ Warren all last week about how he's going to be doing. I don't think TJ Warren's going to be doing a whole lot for Phoenix. Not yet. Not until he can carve out or feel a lot better about what, going through the injury that he went through and all that stuff. When he gets a feel, he might take that place of Torrey Craig, which would be great. And we'll see. Now, Kevin Durant, he's going to put up his stats, but he's going to take a hit. In Brooklyn, he was the man. He pretty much the only guy. Irving played. He was slightly less, but still dominant fantasy-wise. Kevin Durant is now going to be fighting for touches with Ayton. I know Ayton doesn't really demand touches. Chris Paul, and obviously Booker. I think Kevin Durant's going to take a hit fantasy-wise with this. Plus, the Suns are going to be looking to contend, so they're going to want to protect Durant, especially with them, as we can see, traded the farm. So let's take a look at Brooklyn. This is the much more interesting, and I'll probably analyze this a little bit better and break this down better, like what's Brooklyn going to look like moving forward. I'm going to give my initial reaction to all of these trades that they just got. So, Mikal Bridges, he's a defensive guy, so he's not really known for his stats, but he doesn't put up bad numbers. He is going to be one of the go-to guys in Brooklyn. It's going to be, him, Dinwiddie, and we're going to talk about Cam Johnson. Cam Johnson also is going to put up some pretty good numbers. He started to in Phoenix on limited numbers, coming off an injury. He was doing okay. The reason why, they have them slated Mikal Bridges and Cameron Johnson both at small forward. I don't expect that to happen. I expect Cam Johnson to take the starting power forward role from Finney-Smith. And I expect if you don't have Cam Johnson, I'm going to go probably pick him up. That is going to be a great pickup, I think. So if you don't have him, I'd go get him. Mikal Bridges, again, he's more of a winning guy, defensive guy. Doesn't really put up stats, but he puts up good enough stats. So if you have a floater that you can get rid of, those two guys are definitely going to be worth it. I'm going to go pick up Cam Johnson, most likely right after this video. So I believe we have one more trade. Yes, the big one that went down yesterday before the Durant one. Or it was 2 days ago. I don't remember. Yesterday. Today? Whatever. All right. D'Angelo Russell is going back to the Lakers. I think he's obviously going to be the starter there, which is good for him. He's going to be okay. Maybe he'll come out of his shell a little bit more because he's not putting up as good stats as he has in the past when he was more like the go-to guy, the man, when he was like in Brooklyn. So you might see an uptick with him, even though he's got to be sharing this with LeBron and AD. But it all depends on what they want to do with him. And Malik Beasley, I think he's going to take a hit. In Minnesota, he was one of their better shooting guards, small forwards. I don't know what they're going to do with him. I'd be interested to see. I would put a pin in him. He might be worth monitoring just a little bit, just see what happens to him, and he might be worth it. Now, power forward Jared Vanderbilt, he and Hachimura, I think, are going to be splitting a lot of this, mainly because they're both young, and I think they're going to do it like a play by ear kind of thing. So, in my opinion, Vanderbilt, he might put up great numbers like a 15 and 10 night, but if Hachimura's got the hot hand, Vanderbilt could be a dud. 2 points, 2 boards, one of those kind of nights. So. I don't know. He's got to be one of those guys that if you really need to hit the home run and you're okay with taking that big gamble, he might be worth it. I don't know. We'll see. That's why I wanted to wait a little bit to see what the depth charts really look like after these trades. But it'd be dumb for me not to talk about it today. Now let's look at Utah. What does Utah look like with this? Russell Westbrook, I don't maybe they'll they have him slated at the bottom for the 4th person on the depth chart. Maybe he'll be bought out. Maybe he's going to create a stink if he doesn't get the play. So I think it's going to be one of those things we have to wait and see what happens. Now, Colin Sexton, I hate myself. I picked him pretty early in our draft with Evan and Brian. I think I picked him up in like the 10th round or something like that because I'm like, hey, with Donovan Mitchell gone, Colin Sexton's going to be the guy in Utah, and he's been a complete dud. He'll have a good game where he puts up 20 points, but then he doesn't do anything else, and that's way too inconsistent. So Westbrook, he might take I doubt he'll take that starting role, but he's gonna, like I said, he's gonna create a stink if he doesn't get the play. Let's look at Juan and Damian. They didn't have much of an impact beforehand. They're not now, so I'm not worried. Mike Conley, he said he wanted to go to a contender. Minnesota is less of a contender than Utah. They might have a slightly better record, but you're not going to win with Karl Anthony Towns as your number 1 guy. So maybe he'll get bought out. Maybe he'll be. I doubt he'll be moved again because there's only like a couple hours left of the trade deadline. So I don't know. That trade doesn't make sense. I think for Minnesota, I think they gave up more than they needed to. They only got 2nd round picks for that. So Minnesota's going to Minnesota. The Knicks are bad, but there's always a team worse than the Knicks. Well, anyway, that's my take on some of the fantasy trades, or not fantasy trades, some of the trades that have gone down in the NBA. Again, I'm going to look to see what the depth charts look like in the next few days to really make like a definitive choice on some of these trades that went down. But I want to make sure I covered them today with everything that went down. Hopefully, my antibiotics kick in. Hopefully, everything will be better. And make sure you come back and you check in on We Miss the Exit. We're going to hopefully do our show. We like to do them Friday, but they've been more Saturdays than Fridays. So we don't do them live. I wish we did. It makes my life easier. But, look for us for our podcast, for our fantasy King of the Basketball Tag Your It thing, the game that Kurt wanted to do. The F1 season should be starting in the next few months. Look for Kurt to do his show. And come back and check some of our videos every now and then. All right, this is We Miss the Exit. Brent, have a good day.